The stars twisted and bent as the Kreth fleet dropped out of hyperspace. 27 massive ships appeared at the edge of the solar system, their dark hulls glowing with alien energy. Fleet Commander Zektar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the third planet on his screens. It was blue and green, covered in water and land, perfect for harvesting. Zektar had done this 47 times before. His species, the Kreth, had been taking worlds for 300 years. They would arrive, study the local life forms, then strip the planet of everything useful. The creatures living there never put up much of a fight. Most barely had fire. Some had crude metal weapons. A few had managed to reach their own moons. None had ever been a real threat. "Begin deep scans," Zektar ordered his crew. The Kreth had 4 arms and gray skin that looked like stone. Their eyes were large and black, perfect for seeing in the dark between stars. "I want to know everything about this world before we begin harvest operations." His scanner officer worked at the control panel. "Commander, I am detecting unusual energy signatures in the outer system. 2 objects moving at high speed." Zektar waved a dismissive hand. "Probably asteroids or comets. These primitive systems are full of space debris." But the scanner officer looked worried. "Sir, these objects are too regular to be natural. They appear to be artificial constructs." Meanwhile, far across the solar system, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant. The human warship was sleek and gray, bristling with weapons and sensor arrays. Jake was a tall man with short brown hair and calm blue eyes. He had been in the Earth Defense Force for 15 years, working his way up from lieutenant to ship captain. "Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, called out his sensor operator, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. "Multiple large vessels, configuration unknown." Jake felt his heart rate increase. First contact protocols had been drilled into every Earthship captain since the Defense Force was created. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now, they had their answer. "Sound general quarters," Jake ordered. "All hands to battle stations. Communications. Try to raise the Thunder." The USS Thunder was conducting training exercises with the Defiant. Captain Lisa Brooks commanded the Thunder, and she was one of the best tactical officers in the fleet. Lisa was a short woman with red hair and sharp green eyes. She had served on 6 different ships before getting her own command. "Thunder here," Lisa's voice came through the communication system. "We see them too, Jake. 27 ships each, one bigger than anything we've ever built." Both human ships immediately changed course toward the alien fleet. Their crews moved with practiced efficiency, charging weapons and raising defensive shields. Every person on both ships knew this moment would change human history forever. On the Kreth flagship, the scanner officer was becoming more alarmed. "Commander, the artificial constructs are changing course. They are moving toward us at maximum acceleration." Zektar finally looked at the scanner display himself. 2 small ships, crude and blocky compared to Kreth vessels, were racing across space toward his fleet. He studied their design with the eye of someone who had seen many primitive civilizations. "Interesting," he said. "They have achieved basic spaceflight. Their ships appear to be powered by controlled fusion reactions, very crude but functional." The Kreth had encountered spacefaring species before. Most were peaceful traders or explorers. A few tried to fight, but their weapons were always too weak to matter. Energy shields could stop any attack these primitives might attempt. "Shall we destroy them, Commander?" asked his weapons officer. "No," Zektar said. "We will demonstrate our superiority first. Perhaps they can be reasoned with. Fire a warning, shot across their path. Show them our power, but do not destroy them yet. Admiral Rick Carter sat in his office at Earth Defense Command, reviewing training reports when his communication system activated. The Admiral was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent his whole career preparing for this moment, hoping it would never come. "Admiral, this is Priority 1, said the voice of his aide. "We have first contact." Rick stood up so fast his chair fell over. "Patch me through to the fleet immediately." On the Defiant, Jake Morrison watched the alien ships grow larger on his display. The human vessels were still hours away from contact, but already his crew was making final preparations. "Weapon status?" Jake asked. "All railgun batteries charged and ready," reported Chief Tactical Officer Dan Murphy. Dan was a big man from Texas who had served on destroyers before joining the Defiant. "Nuclear missiles loaded and targeted. Point. Defense systems online. Communications? Still trying to establish contact with the alien fleet," said Communications Officer Maria Santos. Maria spoke 7 languages and had degrees in both engineering and linguistics. "No response to any of our standard first contact protocols." Lisa Brooks was having similar conversations on the Thunder. Her crew was ready for whatever came next, but everyone hoped the aliens would be peaceful. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, but preparation was different from reality. The Kreth weapons officer powered up the plasma cannons on the flagship. These weapons could melt through solid rock or vaporize enemy ships. They had never failed to impress primitive species with their awesome power. "Target the lead vessel," Zektar ordered. "Minimum power setting. We want to disable their engines, not destroy them completely." A brilliant beam of green energy lanced across space toward the Defiant. The plasma bolt contained enough energy to power a small city for a year. It struck the human ship directly on the forward hull, right where the Kreth expected maximum damage. But something unexpected happened. Instead of melting through the hull, the energy beam spread across a shimmering barrier around the human ship. The Defiant's shields absorbed the plasma bolt completely, converting the energy into harmless heat that radiated away into space. Jake Morrison smiled grimly as his ship shook from the impact. "Well, that answers whether they're peaceful or not. All ships, you are authorized to return fire. Show them what humans can do." The Thunder and Defiant turned toward the alien fleet, their railguns charging for the first shots of humanity's first interstellar war. In the distance, more human ships were already jumping to FTL, racing toward the battle. Zektar stared at his display in confusion. The primitive ship had not only survived a direct hit from Kreth weapons, but it appeared completely undamaged. This had never happened before in 3 centuries of conquest. "How is this possible?" he whispered, not knowing that he had just made the worst mistake in Kreth history. The Thunder shook as Captain Lisa Brooks felt the alien energy beams strike her shields. Red warning lights flashed across her bridge, but her ship held together. Lisa had trained for this moment her entire career, but nothing could have prepared her for the reality of alien weapons fire. "Shield strength down to 80%, reported her engineering officer. "But the barriers held. Whatever that weapon was, our defensive systems can handle it." Lisa nodded, her green eyes focused on the tactical display. The alien fleet was spread out in a loose formation, clearly not expecting serious resistance. That was their first mistake. "Return fire," she ordered. "All railgun batteries target the lead alien vessel. Full power." The Thunder's main guns were magnetic accelerators that could launch metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Each round was a solid tungsten rod weighing 50 kilograms, moving at nearly 10% the speed of light. The kinetic energy was enormous, enough to punch through any known material. 6 rounds left the Thunder's guns in rapid succession, crossing the distance to the alien flagship in seconds. On the Kreth ship, Zektar watched in growing alarm as his sensors detected incoming projectiles. "Activate defensive shields," he ordered. "Full power to energy barriers." The Kreth shields were designed to stop energy weapons like lasers and plasma bolts. They worked by creating an electromagnetic field that could absorb and deflect directed energy attacks. For 3 centuries, these shields had protected Kreth ships from every weapon they had encountered. But the human railgun rounds were not energy weapons. They were solid chunks of metal moving at relativistic speeds. The electromagnetic barriers that stopped plasma bolts had no effect on physical projectiles. The tungsten rods punched through the alien shields like they were not even there. The first round struck the Kreth flagship near its engine section. The impact released the energy of a small nuclear bomb, tearing a massive hole in the alien hull. Atmosphere rushed out into space as internal explosions rippled through the ship. The second and third rounds hit moments later, causing even more damage. Zektar was thrown to the floor as his ship shuddered under the impacts. Alarms screamed throughout the bridge as his crew struggled to understand what had happened. "Report!" he shouted over the noise. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12, his damage control officer replied, his 4 arms working frantically. At his console, "We have lost primary power to the forward sections. Shield generators are offline." "How is this possible?" Zektar demanded. "Our shields should have stopped those weapons." His science officer looked up from her instruments with fear in her large black eyes. "Commander, those were not energy weapons. They were solid projectiles moving at extreme velocity. Our shields are useless against kinetic attacks." On the Defiant, Jake Morrison watched the results of the Thunder's attack with satisfaction. The lead alien ship was clearly damaged, venting atmosphere and debris. But there were still 26 more ships in the enemy fleet. "Nice shooting, Thunder," he said into his communication system. "Now let's see what they do next." Lieutenant. Commander Alex Stone was the Defiant's tactical officer. He was a quiet man from California who had studied military history at the Earth Defense Academy. Alex understood that the first few minutes of any battle often decided the outcome. "Captain," Alex reported, "the alien fleet is changing formation. They appear to be spreading out to avoid concentrated fire." Jake nodded. "Smart move. But we expected that. Communications, any luck reaching them?" Maria Santos shook her head. "Still no response to our attempts at contact, sir. But I am detecting increased communication traffic between their ships. They are definitely talking to each other." What Maria did not know was that the Kreth were not just talking. They were screaming. Across the alien fleet, ship commanders were demanding explanations from Zektar. How had primitive weapons penetrated their defenses? Why had their sensors failed to detect the true nature of the human attack? Zektar was asking himself the same questions. In 300 years of conquest, the Kreth had never encountered a species that could damage their ships. Most civilizations surrendered after seeing Kreth technology. The few that fought back used energy weapons that were easily stopped by shields. But these humans had done something different. They had built weapons specifically designed to counter energy shields. That suggested a level of tactical thinking that worried Zektar greatly. "Analysis of the human weapons," he demanded from his science officer. "The projectiles appear to be solid metal, accelerated to extreme velocity by magnetic fields," she replied. "The concept is crude but effective. Our shields cannot stop solid matter moving at such speeds. Then we will have to destroy them before they can fire again," Zektar decided. "All ships, concentrate fire on the damaged human vessel. maximum power. But the Thunder was not as damaged as the aliens thought. Lisa Brooks had trained her crew well, and human ships were built to take punishment. Emergency repair teams were already sealing hull breaches and rerouting power systems. "Engineering, how long until we can fire again?" Lisa asked. 30 seconds, Captain," came the reply. "Railgun capacitors are almost recharged." Meanwhile, the Defiant was moving into position for its own attack. Jake Morrison had studied the alien formation and identified what he thought was their command ship. If he could take out their leader, the rest of the fleet might retreat. "Target the largest vessel in the center of their formation," he ordered Alex Stone. "That has to be their flagship." "Targeting solution locked," Alex confirmed. "All weapons ready. Fire." The Defiant's railguns spoke, sending another barrage of tungsten rounds toward the alien fleet. At the same time, the Thunder had finished its reload and was firing again. 12 high-velocity projectiles raced across space toward different alien ships. The Kreth tried to maneuver away from the incoming rounds, but their ships were too large and slow to dodge effectively. Several more alien vessels took hits, suffering heavy damage to their hulls and systems. Zektar realized with growing horror that his fleet was being systematically destroyed by just 2 primitive ships. The humans were not fighting like any species he had encountered before. They were precise, coordinated, and utterly ruthless. "All ships, return fire immediately," he ordered. "Destroy those human vessels before they can attack again." Green plasma bolts filled space as 25 alien ships fired simultaneously at the Thunder and Defiant. But the human ships were moving now, using their superior speed and maneuverability to stay ahead of the energy weapons. Most of the plasma bolts missed completely, while the few that connected were absorbed by the human shields. Admiral Rick Carter watched the battle from Earth Defense Command through live video feeds from both ships. His experienced eyes could see that the humans were winning, but he knew the fight was far from over. "Get me a communication link to both ships," he ordered his staff, "and start mobilizing the reserve fleet. If these aliens have reinforcements, we need to be ready." Back in space, Jake Morrison was coordinating with Lisa Brooks to plan their next attack. The alien fleet was trying to regroup, but they were clearly confused and demoralized. "They're not used to fighting an enemy that can actually hurt them," Jake observed. "Let's keep the pressure on before they figure out how to adapt." Neither human captain knew that they had just shattered 3 centuries of Kreth military doctrine. The aliens had built their entire civilization around the belief that their technology made them invincible. Now that belief was crumbling along with their ships. Zektar stared at the tactical display, watching 2 human vessels tear apart his fleet with weapons that should not have worked. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The space around the outer solar system filled with twisted light as more human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The USS Ranger materialized first, followed closely by the USS Falcon. Both were heavy cruisers, larger and more heavily. Armed than the Thunder and Defiant, Captain Sam Hayes commanded the Ranger. He was a veteran officer with 20 years of experience and scars from 3 different wars on Earth. Sam had fought pirates in the asteroid belt and rebels on Mars, but this was his first alien contact, and he was not planning to let humanity "Down! Status report!" Sam demanded, as soon as his ship finished the FTL transition. "2 ships engaged with alien fleet," reported his sensor officer. "Defiant and Thunder have damaged multiple enemy vessels. No human casualties reported." "Outstanding," Sam said with a grim smile. "Communications. Get me Captain Morrison and Captain Brooks on a secure channel." The USS Falcon was commanded by Captain Ben Walsh, a younger officer who had earned his rank through brilliant tactical thinking rather than years of service. Ben had graduated first in his class from the Earth Defense Academy and had been studying alien warfare theories since he was a teenager. "Ben, good to see you," Jake Morrison's voice came through the communication system. "We've got 25 hostiles armed with plasma weapons. Their shields can't stop kinetic rounds." "Copy that," Ben replied. "Ranger, are you ready to show these aliens what human teamwork looks like?" Sam Hayes was more than ready. "All ships, this is Ranger Actual. We're going to hit them with a coordinated attack. Defiant and Thunder, continue your current tactics. Falcon and Ranger will attack from different vectors." This was something the Kreth had never seen before. In their 3 centuries of conquest, they had always fought against single ships or small groups that operated independently. Each vessel fought its own battle, trying to survive against superior Kreth technology, but humans had evolved as pack, hunters on Earth. They had learned to work together to bring down prey much larger than themselves. Now they were applying those same instincts to space warfare. Chief Tactical Officer Dan Murphy on the Defiant was coordinating targeting data between all 4 human ships. His computers were linked to similar systems on the other vessels, creating a unified battle network. "I have firing solutions for all enemy ships," Dan reported to Jake Morrison. "If we coordinate our attacks, we can hit 12 targets simultaneously." "Do it," Jake ordered. "All ships, fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." 48 tungsten rounds left the human ships at exactly the same moment. The projectiles were timed to arrive at their targets within seconds of each other, creating a devastating barrage that the aliens could not counter. On the Kreth flagship, Zektar watched in growing horror as his tactical display lit up with incoming projectiles. The humans were not fighting like individuals anymore. They were acting like a single organism with 4 different weapon systems. "Evasive maneuvers," he ordered desperately. "All ships, scatter formation." But it was too late. The human attack had been planned with military precision. Navigator Emma Ross on the Falcon had calculated intercept courses that took alien movement patterns into account. Even ships that tried to dodge still took hits from the coordinated barrage. 6 more Kreth vessels were heavily damaged, bringing the total to 9 ships out of action. The alien fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. "How are they coordinating their attacks so precisely?" demanded Zektar's communications officer. "We cannot detect any central command signals." The answer was something the Kreth had never developed. Human ships used quantum communication systems that could not be intercepted or jammed. Each vessel shared targeting data, sensor information, and tactical plans in real time. The 4 ships fought as one mind with 4 bodies. Captain Lisa Brooks on the Thunder was studying the alien formation through her tactical systems. She had noticed something important about how the enemy ships moved. "All ships, this is Thunder," she broadcast. "I think their command structure is hierarchical. The smaller ships are waiting for orders from the larger ones before they act." Ben Walsh on the Falcon immediately understood what she meant. "If we can identify their command ships and take them out first, the rest of the fleet will be paralyzed." "Agreed," said Sam Hayes from the Ranger. "Falcon, can you identify their command vessels?" Ben was already working on the problem with his science officer, Dr. Kevin Adams. Kevin was a brilliant man who had studied alien technology for years, even though this was the first time he had seen any in person. "Based on their formation and communication patterns, I believe the 3 largest ships are their command vessels," Kevin reported. "If we eliminate those, the rest of their fleet should lose coordination. Then that's our target." Jake Morrison, decided. All ships were going after their command structure. Ranger and Falcon, take the left and right command ships. Thunder and Defiant will handle the center vessel. The human ships moved into position with the fluid grace of predators, closing in for the kill. Each captain knew exactly what the others were planning without needing detailed instructions. They had trained together for years, practicing scenarios just like this one. Engineering Chief Rachel Green on the Defiant was monitoring power distribution across all 4 ships through the quantum link. She could see that the Ranger needed more power for its weapons, while the Falcon was running low on reactor coolant. "Defiant to all ships," Rachel broadcast. "I'm transmitting optimized power configurations to maximize our firepower. Ranger, reroute power from your secondary systems. Falcon, reduce engine output to conserve coolant." The human fleet adjusted its systems according to Rachel's recommendations. This was another thing the Kreth had never encountered. Most species fought with whatever equipment they brought to battle. Humans modified their technology during combat, adapting to changing conditions in real time. Zektar was beginning to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. These humans were not primitive savages with crude weapons. They were apex predators who had spent millions of years learning to hunt in coordinated groups. Now they were applying those instincts to interstellar warfare. "Signal the High Command," he ordered his communications officer. "Tell them we need immediate reinforcements. These humans are far more dangerous than we expected." "Sir, our long-range communications are being jammed," came the reply. "The humans appear to be using some kind of interference field." That was not exactly true. The humans were not jamming anything, but their quantum communication systems were creating background radiation that interfered with Kreth technology. The aliens could not call for help while the human ships were nearby. Major Frank Lopez was the Marine commander aboard the Ranger. He was watching the battle through the ship's sensors and making plans for what came next. Frank had studied alien boarding techniques and was eager to test human close combat methods against extraterrestrial opponents. "Captain Hayes," Frank said, "if any of those alien ships survive this engagement, I request permission to lead a boarding party. We need to capture their technology and intelligence." Sam Hayes nodded approvingly. "Granted, Major. But let's finish destroying their fleet first." The 4 human ships fired again, this time concentrating all their firepower on the 3 Kreth command vessels. The alien flagship and its 2 escorts were hit by nearly 60 tungsten rounds, traveling at relativistic speeds. The impacts were devastating. All 3 command ships suffered critical damage, with massive hull breaches and system failures throughout their structures. The flagship's bridge was completely destroyed, killing Zektar and his senior staff instantly. Across the Kreth fleet, smaller ships suddenly found themselves without orders or coordination. Some tried to continue fighting, but their attacks were uncoordinated and ineffective. Others attempted to retreat, but they had no idea where to go or what to do. Captain Ben Walsh watched the alien fleet fall apart on his tactical display. "This is almost too easy," he said to his crew. "They have no idea how to fight without central command." "That's because they've never had to," observed Dr. Kevin Adams. "Their entire military doctrine is based on technological superiority. They've never learned to adapt when that advantage is removed." The remaining human ships continued their attack, systematically destroying the leaderless alien vessels. Within an hour, 25 of the original 27 Kreth ships had been destroyed or disabled. Only 2 vessels remained, and both were trying desperately to escape. Jake Morrison studied the tactical situation from the Defiance bridge. The battle was essentially over, but he wanted to capture at least 1 alien ship intact. "All ships, concentrate fire on the engines of the fleeing vessels," he ordered. "I want at least one of them alive for interrogation." The human fleet moved to intercept the retreating aliens, their coordinated attack bringing down the first ship's engines without destroying the vessel completely. The second alien ship managed to jump to FTL, but it was badly damaged and would not get far. Admiral Rick Carter watched the end of the battle from Earth Defense Command with a mixture of pride and concern. Humanity had won its first interstellar war, but he knew this was probably just the beginning. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Secure the battlefield and prepare for—" The Kreth survivors huddled in the damaged compartments of their remaining ship, listening in growing horror to the human communications they had finally managed to intercept. What they heard made their worst fears seem small and insignificant. The humans were not just celebrating their victory, they were analyzing it. "Thunder to Defiant," came Captain Lisa Brooks's voice through the alien monitoring systems. "I'm sending you our weapons performance data. Their hull material appears to be some kind of crystalline metal. Our tungsten rounds penetrated easily, but we might get better results with depleted uranium." "Copy that," Jake Morrison replied. "Dr. Adams on the Falcon is already working on composition analysis. He thinks we can modify our railgun rounds to be 30% more effective against their armor." Science Officer Dr. Kevin Adams was indeed working on exactly that problem. He had collected samples of alien hull material from the debris field and was running tests in the Falcon's laboratory. Kevin was a methodical man who approached warfare like a mathematical equation to be solved. "The crystalline structure has a specific resonance frequency," Kevin reported to the other ships. "If we tune our kinetic rounds to that frequency, we can shatter their hulls with much smaller projectiles." Engineering Chief Rachel Green on the Defiant was listening to this conversation while simultaneously reverse engineering captured alien technology. She had managed to salvage intact pieces of Kreth weapon systems and was already figuring out how they worked. "Their plasma cannons use a magnetic containment field to focus the energy beam," Rachel announced. "But the field generators are vulnerable to electromagnetic pulse. We can build EMP warheads that will disable their weapons before they can fire." The Kreth survivors translated these communications with growing terror. These humans were not just fighting them. They were studying them like laboratory specimens, finding weaknesses and developing countermeasures in real time. Captain Sam Hayes on the Ranger was coordinating the analysis effort. "All ships, upload your sensor data to the Central Tactical Database. I want a complete profile of alien technology, tactics, and capabilities." "Already done," replied Captain Ben Walsh from the Falcon. "I'm also preparing a tactical assessment for Fleet Command. These aliens fight like they've never encountered serious resistance before." That assessment was more accurate than Ben realized. The Kreth had conquered 47 worlds without ever facing an enemy that could damage their ships. Their entire military doctrine was based on technological intimidation rather than actual combat experience. But the humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They had developed weapons, tactics, and strategies through constant warfare. Every human ship captain had studied the great military leaders of history, from Alexander the Great to Admiral Nelson to the generals of the world wars. Lieutenant Commander Alex Stone on the Defiant was applying those lessons to space combat. "Captain Morrison," he reported, "based on their formation patterns, I believe these aliens use a command hierarchy similar to ancient Earth navies. If we can identify their command ships and eliminate them first, their fleet coordination will collapse." "We already proved that theory," Jake replied. "But keep analyzing their tactics. I want to know how they think, how they fight, and how we can beat them more efficiently next time. The phrase "next time" sent chills through the Kreth survivors. These humans were not treating this battle as a desperate defense of their world. They were treating it as the first engagement in a larger war, studying their enemies to prepare for future conflicts. Dr. Kevin Adams had made another disturbing discovery. All ships I've been analyzing their hyperspace technology. It appears to be significantly more advanced than our FTL drives, but it has a critical weakness. "What kind of weakness?" asked Lisa Brooks. "Their jump drives create a specific energy signature when charging for FTL transition. We can detect that signature from considerable distance and calculate exactly where they will emerge from hyperspace." "Outstanding," said Sam Hayes. "That means we can ambush their reinforcements when they arrive." The Kreth survivors realized with growing horror that these humans were already planning to fight the entire Kreth military. They had defeated one fleet and were immediately preparing to battle the next one. Communications Officer Maria Santos on the Defiant was working on an even more disturbing project. She had been analyzing Kreth communication protocols and was beginning to understand their language. "I'm making progress on their linguistics," Maria reported. "Their communication system uses mathematical concepts similar to our own. Give me a few more hours and I should be able to translate their messages." "Excellent work," Jake Morrison replied. "Knowing what they're saying will give us a huge tactical advantage." Major Frank Lopez was preparing for boarding operations on the disabled Kreth vessel. He had studied the ship's layout through sensor scans and was planning his assault route. "I've identified what appears to be their command center and engineering sections," Frank reported to Captain Hayes. "My Marines are ready to secure both areas and capture any survivors for interrogation." "Approved," Sam replied. "But be careful. We don't know anything about their biology or what kind of defenses they might have." Frank smiled grimly. "Sir, my Marines have been training for alien contact scenarios for 5 years. We're ready for anything." The human boarding teams were equipped with kinetic weapons specifically designed for ship-to-ship combat. Unlike energy weapons, their guns would not risk damaging the alien technology they wanted to capture intact. Dr. Kevin Adams had been studying the biological data from the alien corpses recovered from the battlefield. Based on preliminary analysis, the Kreth appear to be carbon-based life forms with similar physiology to Earth reptiles. They should be vulnerable to standard human weapons and tactics. "What about their technology level?" asked Captain Ben Walsh. "Significantly more advanced in some areas, particularly energy manipulation and hyperspace travel, but they appear to have neglected kinetic weapons and defensive systems. It's as if they never expected to fight an enemy that could actually hurt them." That observation was exactly correct. The Kreth had built their military around the assumption that their energy shields made them invulnerable. They had never developed armor or point defense systems because they had never needed them. Engineering Chief Rachel Green had made the most disturbing discovery of all. "I've been analyzing their ship design and manufacturing techniques," she reported. "Their technology is definitely more advanced than ours, but it's also more specialized. They've optimized everything for fighting primitive enemies." "What does that mean for us?" asked Jake Morrison. "It means they've never had to adapt their technology under pressure. We've been building weapons and defenses based on fighting other humans who are just as smart and creative as we are. They've been building technology to intimidate species that can't fight back." The implications of that analysis sent shock waves through the human fleet. These aliens were technologically superior, but they had never learned to innovate under pressure. Humans, on the other hand, had been doing exactly that for their entire history. Captain Lisa Brooks was coordinating with the other ship commanders to plan their next moves. Admiral Carter wants us to secure all alien technology and prepare for possible reinforcements. Intel suggests these aliens probably have a much larger fleet somewhere. Then we need to be ready for them, Sam Hayes replied. I recommend we establish a defensive perimeter around the outer system and prepare our own reinforcements. The Kreth survivors listened to these communications with complete despair. Not only had the humans defeated their fleet, but they were already preparing to fight the entire Kreth military. Worse, they were treating the advanced Kreth technology like puzzle pieces to be studied and improved upon. Navigator Emma Ross on the Falcon had been plotting possible enemy reinforcement routes. Based on their hyperspace technology, I estimate any Kreth reinforcements will arrive from the galactic core direction. We can position our fleet to intercept them before they reach Earth. Good thinking, replied Ben Walsh. But let's also prepare some surprises for them. If they're expecting to fight the same primitive humans they encountered here, they're going to be very disappointed. The most terrifying part of the human communications was how casually they discussed adapting alien technology for their own use. The Kreth had always assumed that their technological advantage would protect them from primitive species. But these humans were treating advanced alien technology like a gift to be unwrapped and improved upon. Dr. Kevin Adams summed up the human approach perfectly. Every piece of alien technology we capture makes us stronger. Every tactic they use teaches us how to fight them better. By the time their reinforcements arrive, we'll be ready for them. The Kreth survivors realized they had made a terrible mistake. They had not encountered a primitive species to be easily conquered. They had awakened something far more dangerous. They had awakened a species of adaptive predators who treated war as a science to be perfected. Admiral Rick Carter stood in the command center at Earth Defense Headquarters, watching the tactical display that showed the battle's aftermath. 25 alien ships destroyed, 2 captured, and 0 human casualties. It was the kind of victory that military historians would study for centuries. But Rick Carter was not celebrating. He was planning for what came next. "Signal Captain Morrison," he ordered his communications officer. "I'm authorizing Protocol 7. Protocol 7 was something that had been planned for years, but never used. It was humanity's ultimate escalation, doctrine designed for situations where Earth faced an existential threat from technologically superior enemies. Jake Morrison received the authorization code on the Defiant and felt his blood run cold. Protocol 7 meant that humanity was officially at war with an alien species, and all restrictions on human military capabilities were now removed. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter," came the transmission from Earth. "You are hereby authorized to use any and all means necessary to defend humanity. The gloves are coming off." Captain Sam Hayes on the Ranger understood immediately what that meant. "Major Lopez, prepare your boarding teams. We're going to capture that alien ship and everyone aboard it." Major Frank Lopez had been waiting for this order his entire career. Frank was a big man from Detroit who had served in Marine units on Mars and Europa. He had trained for alien contact scenarios that most people hoped would never happen. "Marines, this is what we trained for," Frank announced over the ship's communication system. "We're going aboard an alien vessel to secure their technology and capture prisoners. Remember your training and watch each other's backs." The human boarding craft launched from the Ranger, heading toward the disabled Kreth vessel. The alien ship was badly damaged, but still intact, with multiple hull breaches and power failures throughout its structure. Frank led his Marines through the airlock into the alien ship's corridors. The passageways were designed for creatures larger than humans, with high ceilings and wide spaces. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the metallic walls. "Movement ahead," reported Sergeant Lisa Murphy, Frank's second-in-command. Lisa was a former Special Forces operator who had served in conflicts across the solar system. "Weapons free," Frank ordered. "But remember, we want prisoners if possible." The first contact between human and alien ground forces happened in a damaged corridor near the Kreth ship's engineering section. 3 surviving Kreth crew members attempted to defend their vessel with energy weapons similar to their ship's plasma cannons. But human Marines carried kinetic weapons designed for close-quarters combat. Their assault rifles fired armor-piercing rounds that cut through the aliens' personal shields like they were made of paper. The Kreth fell quickly, overwhelmed by weapons they had no defense against. "Secure the area," Frank ordered as his Marines moved deeper into the ship. "Intel says their command center should be 3 levels up." Meanwhile, Captain Ben Walsh was leading a different kind of assault. The Falcon had moved close enough to the disabled alien ship to launch electronic warfare attacks against its computer systems. "Dr. Adams, how are we doing on cracking their data networks?" Ben asked. Dr. Kevin Adams was working at his science station, attempting to penetrate the alien computer systems with modified human hacking software. Their encryption is sophisticated, but it's designed to stop other aliens, not humans. Our programming approaches are completely different from theirs. "Can you break it?" "Already done," Kevin replied with satisfaction. "I'm downloading their navigation database, technical manuals, and communication logs. This is going to tell us everything we want to know about their civilization." On the Kreth ship, Frank Lopez and his Marines had reached the command center. The compartment was larger than any human bridge, with multiple workstations designed for the aliens' 4-armed physiology. "2 survivors here," reported Sergeant Murphy. "Both appear to be officers based on their uniforms." Frank approached the surviving aliens carefully. Both Kreth were wounded but alive, their large black eyes filled with fear and confusion. Through his helmet translator, which Dr. Adams had quickly programmed with basic Kreth language patterns, Frank attempted communication. "You are prisoners of the Earth Defense Force," he announced. "Cooperate, and you will not be harmed." One of the aliens responded in what the translator interpreted as their language. "How is this possible? You are primitives. Your weapons should not work against us." Frank smiled grimly behind his helmet visor. "That's what everyone thinks until they fight humans. You made the mistake of attacking our home system." The second alien spoke up, its voice filled with desperation. "You do not understand. We are part of the Kreth Dominion. Our military controls 47 worlds. When our High Command learns of this defeat, they will send hundreds of ships to destroy your planet." "Let them come," Frank replied calmly. "We'll be ready." Back on the human ships, the captured data was revealing the true scope of the threat humanity faced. The Kreth Dominion was a massive interstellar empire with advanced technology and military forces beyond anything Earth had imagined. Captain Lisa Brooks was studying the intelligence reports on the Thunder. According to their records, the Kreth have been conquering worlds for 3 centuries. They've never encountered serious resistance before. "That explains their tactics," observed Jake Morrison from the Defiant. "They're used to fighting enemies who surrender as soon as they see alien technology." Admiral Carter's voice came through the communication system with new orders. "All ships prepare for immediate departure. Long-range sensors have detected multiple hyperspace signatures approaching our position. It looks like the aliens are sending reinforcements. The human fleet began moving into defensive positions around the captured alien vessels, but they were not running away. Instead, they were preparing an ambush for the next wave of Kreth ships. Dr. Kevin Adams had been analyzing the captured hyperspace technology and had made a crucial discovery. "Admiral, I believe I can predict exactly where the alien reinforcements will emerge from FTL. Their navigation systems use fixed hyperspace routes." "Outstanding," Admiral Carter replied. "All ships prepare for coordinated ambush tactics. We're going to hit them the moment they arrive." Captain Ben Walsh was working with his engineering team to implement lessons learned from the first battle. "Based on our analysis of their shield technology, I recommend we modify our railgun rounds to create secondary fragmentation effects. When the tungsten rods hit their hulls, they'll explode and cause additional damage." "Approved," said Admiral Carter. "All ships, implement the new ammunition modifications immediately." The human ships worked frantically to prepare for the next engagement. Engineering teams modified weapon systems, tactical officers updated targeting protocols, and Marine units prepared for more boarding operations. Commander Paul Rivera and Commander Amy Chen had arrived with additional ships from the inner system. Paul commanded the heavy cruiser USS Vigilant, while Amy led a squadron of destroyers. Both officers were veterans of the Mars Rebellion and understood how to fight against superior numbers. "Admiral, we have 12 additional ships ready for combat," Paul reported. "All vessels are equipped with the new kinetic weapon modifications." "Perfect timing," Admiral Carter replied. "The alien reinforcements should arrive within the hour." Major Frank Lopez was still aboard the captured Kreth ship, interrogating the alien prisoners. Through the improving translator software, he was learning disturbing details about Kreth military capabilities. "They have a total fleet of over 2,000 ships," Frank reported to Admiral Carter, "but most of them are deployed across their conquered territories. The reinforcement fleet heading our way consists of 200 vessels." 200 ships, Admiral Carter repeated grimly. "That's 10 times what we just fought." "Sir," interrupted Dr. Kevin Adams, "I've been analyzing their ship classifications from the captured data. Most of their fleet consists of older vessels, designed for intimidation rather than combat. Only about 50 of the incoming ships are frontline warships. That evens the odds somewhat," Admiral Carter mused. "But we're still heavily outnumbered." Captain Jake Morrison had been thinking about the tactical situation. "Admiral, I recommend we use their expectations against them. They're coming here, expecting to find the wreckage of their scout fleet and some primitive human ships. What do you have in mind?" "We let them find exactly what they expect to see," Jake explained. "Then we hit them when their guard is down." The plan that emerged was audacious, even by human standards. The Earth Defense Force would use the captured alien technology to create a deception, making it appear that the Kreth scout fleet had been successful in its mission. "Dr. Adams, can you use their communication systems to send false reports to the incoming fleet?" Admiral Carter asked. "Already working on it," Kevin replied. "I can make it appear that the scout fleet destroyed all human resistance and is preparing for the harvesting operation." As the human fleet prepared for the largest space battle in Earth's history, the captured Kreth prisoners watched in growing horror. These humans were not just defending their world. They were planning to destroy a fleet 10 times larger than the one they had just defeated. High Admiral Cresseval commanded the Kreth reinforcement fleet from the bridge of the massive dreadnought destroyer of worlds. He was ancient even by Kreth standards, having led conquest fleets for over 2 centuries. Never in all that time had he encountered a species that could threaten Kreth supremacy. "Signal from the scout fleet," reported his communications officer. Fleet Commander Zektar reports complete success. The primitive human vessels have been destroyed and the third planet is ready for harvesting. Cresvol was pleased, but not surprised. Zektar was a competent officer, and the humans were clearly just another primitive species with crude technology. The High Admiral had brought 200 ships, not because he expected serious resistance, but because the Kreth High Command wanted to make an example of any species that dared fire upon Kreth vessels. "Excellent," Cresvol replied. "Signal the fleet to prepare for standard harvesting operations. We will strip this system of all useful resources and add another world to the Dominion." What the High Admiral did not know was that the communication had come from Dr. Kevin Adams aboard the human ship Falcon. Using captured Kreth technology and improved translation software, Kevin had successfully impersonated Zektar's communications officer. The human fleet was waiting in the shadow of one of the outer planets, hidden from alien sensors by the planet's magnetic field. 50 ships had arrived from Earth's inner system defenses, bringing the total human force to nearly 60 vessels. Admiral Rick Carter stood on the bridge of his flagship, the USS Constitution, watching the tactical display that showed the approaching alien fleet. The Constitution was humanity's most advanced warship, armed with weapon systems that had been upgraded using captured Kreth technology. "Commodore Miller, are your battle groups in position?" Carter asked. Commodore Steve Miller commanded the heavy cruiser squadron from his ship, the USS Indomitable. Steve was a tactical genius who had spent years studying historical naval battles and adapting their lessons for space warfare. "All heavy units ready, Admiral," Steve reported. "We're positioned to hit their flanks the moment they enter the ambush zone." Captain Helen Turner commanded the destroyer squadrons from the USS Swift. Helen was known throughout the fleet for her aggressive tactics and her ability to coordinate multiple ships in high-speed attacks. Destroyer groups Alpha through Delta are ready, Helen reported. "We can be on top of them before they know what hit them." The alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace exactly where Dr. Kevin Adams had predicted they would. 200 massive ships appeared in formation, their hulls gleaming with the dark metal that marked Kreth technology. High Admiral Cresvol studied the tactical display showing the debris field from the supposed battle. Everything looked exactly as he expected it would. Scattered wreckage from primitive human ships and the intact vessels of Zektar's scout fleet. "Signal Zektar to report to my flagship," Cresvol ordered. "I want a complete briefing on these humans before we begin. Harvesting operations." "Sir," replied his communications officer, "I am getting no response from Fleet Commander Zektar's ship." That should have been the first warning sign, but Cresvol assumed that Zektar was simply busy with post-battle operations. The High Admiral had no experience with species clever enough to create deceptions. Meanwhile, the human fleet was moving into attack position. The ships had been modified with stealth technology reverse-engineered from captured Kreth systems, making them nearly invisible to alien sensors. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter," came the broadcast on the secure human communication network. "Remember, we hit them hard and fast. Target their command ships first, then spread out and engage targets of opportunity. Weapons Officer Lieutenant?" Troy Davis on the Constitution was coordinating the opening barrage. Troy had studied the captured alien ship designs and identified the most vulnerable points on each class of vessel. "I have targeting solutions for all enemy command ships," Troy reported. "First salvo will consist of our new armor-piercing rounds with electromagnetic pulse warheads." "Fire when ready," Admiral Carter ordered. The human fleet opened fire simultaneously, launching nearly 300 kinetic projectiles at the unsuspecting alien fleet. The new rounds had been designed specifically to penetrate Kreth armor and disable their electronic systems. High Admiral Cresseval was thrown to the floor as his flagship shuddered under multiple impacts. Alarms screamed throughout the bridge as systems failed and emergency lighting activated. "Report!" he shouted over the chaos. "Multiple impacts on the hull," his damage control officer replied with panic in his voice. "Primary power is offline. Shield generators are destroyed. We are under attack by unknown vessels." "Impossible," Cresseval snarled. "Zektar destroyed all human ships. There cannot be any enemies in this system." But the tactical display told a different story. Dozens of human ships were emerging from concealment, their weapons blazing as they tore into the surprised alien fleet. The first barrage had disabled or destroyed over 30 Kreth vessels before they could even raise their shields. Commodore Steve Miller led the heavy cruiser attack against the alien center formation. His ships moved in perfect coordination, concentrating their fire on the largest enemy vessels. "Target their engine sections," Steve ordered his squadron. "I want those big ships dead in the water." The human heavy cruisers fired their main guns in devastating salvos. Each ship carried railgun systems that had been upgraded with alien technology, making them far more powerful than the weapons that had defeated the scout fleet. Captain Helen, Turner's destroyers swept in from the flanks, moving at maximum speed to avoid return fire. The smaller ships carried modified missile systems that could overwhelm alien point defenses. "All destroyer groups, execute attack pattern Delta," Helen commanded. "Hit them fast and get out before they can respond." The human destroyers launched their missiles and immediately changed course, using their superior speed and maneuverability to stay ahead of alien weapons. The missiles struck their targets with devastating effect, crippling alien ships throughout. The formation. Major Frank Lopez was aboard one of the assault ships, preparing his Marines for boarding operations. Frank had studied the layout of different Kreth ship classes and was ready to capture as many vessels as possible. "Marines, we're going to board the damaged alien ships and secure their technology," Frank announced. "Remember, we want prisoners and intact equipment." But the Kreth were not as helpless as they had been during the first battle. High Admiral Cresseval was an experienced military commander, and he quickly began organizing a counterattack. "All ships concentrate fire on the human heavy units," he ordered. "Ignore the smaller vessels and focus on their main battle line." The alien fleet began to fight back, their plasma weapons creating brilliant displays of light across space. But they were fighting from a position of disadvantage, having been caught completely by surprise. Dr. Kevin Adams was monitoring alien communications from his station on the Falcon. The improved translation software was giving him real-time intelligence on enemy tactics and intentions. "Admiral, the aliens are trying to form a defensive perimeter around their command ships," Kevin reported. "But their coordination is breaking down. Many of their vessels are operating independently." "Excellent," Admiral Carter replied. "All ships exploit their confusion. Hit them before they can organize an effective defense." The battle raged across millions of cubic kilometers of space as nearly 300 ships engaged in the largest space combat in galactic history. The human fleet moved like a pack of wolves, coordinating their attacks and supporting each other with tactical precision. Engineering Chief Rachel Green was coordinating damage control across the entire human fleet through the quantum communication network. Her teams were making real-time repairs and modifications to keep the ships fighting at maximum efficiency. "Constitution, your number 3 railgun is offline," Rachel reported to Admiral Carter. "Rerouting power from secondary systems to restore. Function?" USS Indomitable. Your missile tubes are overheating, she announced to Commodore Miller. Recommend switching to backup systems for the next salvo. This level of fleet coordination was something the Kreth had never encountered. Each of their ships fought as an individual unit, with limited communication and coordination between vessels. Captain Ben Walsh on the Falcon was leading a group of modified ships in electronic warfare attacks against the alien fleet. Dr. Adams, can you jam their communications like we did with the scout fleet? Already working on it, Kevin replied. Their communication systems are more sophisticated than the scout fleet, but I think I can disrupt their command network. The electronic attacks began to take effect as Kreth ships found themselves unable to communicate with their command structure. Individual vessels were left to fight on their own, without coordination or tactical support. High Admiral Cresseval watched his fleet being systematically destroyed by an enemy he had grossly underestimated. These humans were not primitive savages with crude weapons. They were sophisticated military opponents who had been studying Kreth technology and developing countermeasures. "Signal the High Command," he ordered desperately. "Tell them we need immediate reinforcements. These humans are far more dangerous than we believed." The Kreth High Command chamber on their home world of Thresh Prime had not seen such chaos in 3 centuries. The massive hall, built from black crystal that reached toward the vaulted ceiling, echoed with panicked voices as the ruling council tried to understand the disaster that had befallen their fleet. Supreme Commander Vekthul stood at the center of the chamber, his 4 arms gesturing wildly as he read the final transmission from High Admiral Cresseval. The message had been sent just before the Admiral's flagship was destroyed, and its contents had shattered everything the Kreth believed about their place in the universe. "The humans have reverse-engineered our technology during the battle," Vekthul announced to the assembled council. "They are not only using our own weapons against us, but they have improved them." Council member Zaraneth raised one of her arms in protest. "That is impossible. Our technology is centuries more advanced than anything these primitives could create. How could they understand systems that took us millennia to develop?" The answer came from the captured human communications that Cresseval had managed to record before his death. The Kreth translation computers had worked frantically to decode the alien language, revealing conversations that filled the council with dread. "Listen to this," Vekthul said, activating the recording system. The voice of Colonel Janet Phillips came through the speakers, translated into Kreth language patterns. "Engineering Team 7 has successfully modified our missiles with captured alien guidance systems," the recording announced. "The new weapons are 40% more accurate than our original designs." Another voice joined the conversation, identified as Captain Greg White from his ship's communication logs. "My crew has completely decoded their tactical communication protocols. We're now listening to everything they say during combat." Council member Torvash collapsed into his seat, his stone-gray skin turning an even paler shade. "They are listening to our battle communications. How is that possible?" The recordings continued, revealing the true scope of human capabilities. Dr. Kevin Adams's voice described how human scientists had analyzed Kreth shield technology and developed specific countermeasures. Engineering Chief Rachel Green explained how human engineers had reverse-engineered alien power systems and integrated them into human ships. "This is a catastrophe beyond imagining," whispered Council member Kethana. "They have not just defeated our fleets. They have absorbed our technology and made it their own." Supreme Commander Vekthul activated another recording, this one from the final moments of the battle. Admiral Carter's voice was calm and professional as he coordinated the destruction of the Kreth reinforcement fleet. "All ships, Begin immediate salvage operations on the disabled alien vessels. I want every piece of technology analyzed and integrated into our own systems within 48 hours. The Council listened in growing horror as human voices discussed the capture of intact Kreth ships, the interrogation of survivors, and the complete analysis of alien databases. These humans were not just winning battles. They were systematically dismantling Kreth technological superiority. They are treating our advanced technology like components in a primitive machine, Vekthul said with despair in his voice. They take what we have built over centuries and improve it in a matter of hours. Council member Drakthor activated his own communication system. What news from our surviving ships? Surely some vessels escaped to bring us intelligence about human capabilities. The answer was more disturbing than they had feared. Of the 22 ships that had escaped the battle, only 12 had managed to reach Kreth space. The others had been intercepted by human ships that seemed to know exactly where they were going. The surviving captains report that human vessels appeared at our standard hyperspace exit points, reported Intelligence Director Melvac. It was as if the humans knew our navigation protocols better than we do. That was exactly what had happened. Dr. Kevin Adams had not only captured the Kreth navigation database, but had also analyzed their hyperspace technology so thoroughly that he could predict their movements with perfect accuracy. The recordings from the surviving ships painted a picture of human capabilities that defied everything the Kreth thought they knew about warfare. Captain Helen Turner's destroyer squadrons had moved with coordination that seemed impossible for individual ships. Commodore Steve Miller's heavy cruisers had concentrated their fire with mathematical precision that suggested computer-level coordination. How do they coordinate so many ships as if they were a single entity? Demanded Council member Zaraneth. The answer came from intercepted human communications that the surviving Kreth ships had managed to record. The humans used something they called quantum communication networks that allowed instantaneous coordination between vessels across vast distances. They share information in real time, Intelligence Director Mel Vac explained. Every ship knows what every other ship is doing at all times. They fight not as individual vessels but as a single organism, with multiple bodies. Supreme Commander Vekthul studied the tactical analysis provided by the surviving captains. The human fleet had moved with a level of coordination that the Kreth military had never achieved, even with their most advanced command systems. Their tactical doctrine is completely different from ours, he observed. We fight ship-to-ship duels with individual commanders making independent decisions. They fight as a coordinated swarm that adapts to changing conditions. But the most terrifying revelation was yet to come. The final recording from High Admiral Cressevol's flagship contained conversations between human officers about their future plans. Admiral Carter to all ships, came the recorded voice. Begin preparation for deep space reconnaissance missions. I want to know the location of every alien world and military installation. Dr. Kevin Adams's voice responded immediately. Already working on it, Admiral. The captured navigation database contains the coordinates of 47 conquered worlds and the location of their primary military bases. The Kreth Council sat in stunned silence as they realized what this meant. The humans had not just defended their homeworld. They had captured complete intelligence about the entire Kreth Dominion and were preparing to carry the war to Kreth space. They know where all our worlds are located, whispered Council Member Kethana. They know our fleet dispositions, our defensive capabilities, our military doctrine. Council Member Torvash raised a trembling arm. What of our technological advantages? Surely our manufacturing capabilities still exceed theirs. The answer came from more intercepted communications. Engineering Chief Rachel Green was already establishing production facilities to build hybrid human-Kreth warships. Colonel Janet Phillips was mass-producing weapons that combined human kinetic technology with captured alien energy systems. They are not just using our technology, Supreme Commander Vekthul said with growing despair. They are improving it faster than we ever did. The recorded voice of Major Frank Lopez described how human boarding teams had captured intact Kreth manufacturing equipment and were already producing improved versions of alien weapons. Captain Ben Walsh explained how human engineers had solved design problems that had troubled Kreth scientists for decades. In 6 months, they will have ships more advanced than anything in our fleet, Intelligence Director Melvak concluded after studying the technical discussions in the captured communications. The most damning evidence came from the final conversation recorded before High Admiral Cressevol's death. Admiral Carter was discussing strategy with his senior officers, planning the next phase of human military expansion. Captain Morrison, I want you to lead the advance force into alien territory, Carter had said. Your mission is to locate their primary fleet bases and eliminate their manufacturing capabilities. Understood, Admiral, Jake Morrison had replied. When do we begin the offensive? Immediately, Carter had answered. These aliens made the mistake of attacking Earth. Now we're going to show them what happens when you wake up a sleeping predator. The Kreth Council realized with absolute horror that their 3-century reign of galactic dominance was coming to an end. They had awakened something far more dangerous than any species they had encountered before. What are your orders, Supreme Commander? Asked Council Member Drakthor. Vekthul looked around the chamber at his fellow council members, seeing fear and despair in their large black eyes. For the first time in Kreth history, they faced an enemy that was not only stronger than them, but was actively hunting them. Signal all fleet commanders, he said finally. Recall every ship to defend our core worlds, and begin immediate evacuation of our outer colonies. Are we retreating from these humans? Asked Zaraneth with disbelief. We are not retreating, Vekthul replied grimly. We are preparing for the fight of our lives against an enemy that treats war as a science to be perfected. As the Kreth Council began planning their desperate defense, human ships were already entering hyperspace, carrying weapons and technology that would have seemed impossible just months before. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy would never be the same. The age of Kreth dominance was ending, and the age of human expansion was about to begin. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, Ambassador Nicole Foster stood on the observation deck of the USS Horizon, humanity's first fully integrated alien-human hybrid warship. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the massive space station that served as the Galactic Council's meeting place, orbiting the neutral world of Centris Prime. Nicole was a skilled diplomat who had spent years preparing for first contact scenarios, but nothing in her training had prepared her for this moment. She was not here as a representative of a primitive species seeking acceptance into galactic civilization. She was here as the ambassador of the newest apex predator in known space. The council chamber is ready for your address, Ambassador, announced Captain Roy Martinez, commander of the Horizon. Roy was a veteran of both battles against the Kreth, and his ship represented the pinnacle of human engineering combined with captured alien technology. The USS Horizon was a sight that would have been impossible just months before. Its hull incorporated Kreth crystalline armor that had been improved by human metallurgy. Its weapons systems combined human kinetic technology with alien energy manipulation. Its shields used principles that neither species could have developed alone. "Thank you, Captain," Nicole replied. "Is Admiral Carter's fleet in position?" "Yes, ma'am. 50 ships are holding station at the edge of the system. Another 100 are positioned throughout Council space, ready to respond if needed." Behind the diplomatic mission, Admiral Rick Carter commanded a fleet that now outclassed anything in known space. The human ships were no longer crude vessels armed with primitive weapons. They were sophisticated warships that combined the best technology from multiple alien civilizations. The Galactic Council Chamber was a vast spherical space designed to accommodate representatives from dozens of different species. When Nicole entered, she could see delegates from across the galaxy, their various forms adapted to different worlds and evolutionary pressures. But today, all eyes were focused on the human delegation and the recordings they had brought to share with the Council. "Honored delegates," Nicole began, her voice carried throughout the chamber by translation systems. "I come before you not as a petitioner seeking membership, but as a representative of humanity's place in the new galactic order." She activated the holographic display system showing the aftermath of the Kreth War. The images were devastating. 47 worlds that had been under Kreth control for centuries were now free, liberated by human fleets that had swept through Kreth space with unstoppable force. Council President Nalarek, a tall reptilian being from the Saurian Confederacy, spoke first. "Ambassador Foster, the reports we have received about human military capabilities seem exaggerated. Surely no single species could have defeated the Kreth Dominion so completely." Nicole smiled politely and activated another display. This one showed the technical specifications of human warships, including the improvements made with captured alien technology. The USS Horizon, which brought me here today, incorporates advanced technology from 7 different alien civilizations, she explained. "We have not simply adopted your technology, we have improved it." Dr. Kevin Adams appeared on the communication system from the Horizon Science Labs. Kevin had been promoted to Chief of Xenotechnology Development after his crucial role in the war. "Honored delegates, I am transmitting detailed technical specifications of our current capabilities," Kevin announced. "You will see that human engineering has solved several technological problems that have limited galactic development for centuries." The data package that Kevin transmitted contained information that stunned the assembled delegates. Human scientists had not only reverse-engineered alien technology, but had made breakthrough discoveries that advanced the science by centuries. Delegate Vashara from the Crystalline Collective raised her shimmering appendage. "These energy efficiency improvements are impossible. Our best scientists have worked on these problems for millennia." "With respect," Nicole replied, "your scientists were working within the constraints of their own technological traditions. Humans approach the same problems from completely different perspectives." She activated another display showing human manufacturing facilities. The images revealed automated factories producing warships at a rate that dwarfed anything in galactic history. Human industrial capacity now exceeds the combined output of the 3 largest galactic powers, Nicole continued. "Our shipyards are currently producing vessels that incorporate the best technologies from across known space." Captain Greg White appeared on the communication link from his ship, the USS Defiance, one of the newest hybrid warships in the human fleet. Greg had been promoted after his role in breaking Kreth communication codes during the war. "Ambassador, we're detecting some interesting energy signatures from several Council ships," Greg reported. "It appears some delegates are scanning our vessel with military sensors." Nicole's expression remained calm, but her next words carried an unmistakable warning. "Captain White, please demonstrate our defensive capabilities for our new friends." The USS Horizon's shields activated, creating a shimmering barrier around the ship that absorbed and redirected the scanning beams. But more impressive was what happened next. The human ship's sensors began providing detailed analysis of every vessel in the system, displaying their weapon capabilities, shield strengths, and crew compositions. "We are aware of every ship in this system and their exact capabilities," Nicole announced. "We know which delegates came here with peaceful intentions and which brought military escorts." Delegate Corthon from the Hegemony of Worlds stood up angrily. "This is an outrageous violation of Council neutrality protocols." "With respect," Nicole replied smoothly, "we are simply demonstrating that human technology now exceeds anything you possess. We scan your ships because we can, just as you attempted to scan ours." Admiral Carter's voice came through the communication system from his flagship, the USS Constitution. "Ambassador Foster, long-range sensors are detecting Kreth survivors, attempting to flee toward the galactic rim. Should we intercept them?" The question was clearly intended for the Council delegates to hear. Nicole pretended to consider it for a moment before responding. "No, Admiral. Let them go. The surviving Kreth pose no threat to human interests." The implications of that exchange were not lost on the assembled delegates. Humanity was not just defending itself anymore. They were actively hunting the remnants of a once mighty galactic power, and they considered the Kreth too weak to bother with. President Nalarek attempted to regain control of the situation. "Ambassador Foster, while we acknowledge humanity's impressive military capabilities, the Galactic Council exists to promote peaceful cooperation between species." "Of course," Nicole agreed. "Humanity has no interest in conquest or domination. We simply want to ensure that no species ever again makes the mistake the Kreth made." She activated a final display showing the current disposition of human forces throughout the galaxy. The map revealed a shocking truth. Human ships were now present in every major star system, protecting liberated worlds and monitoring potential threats. "We have established a defensive perimeter around all former Kreth territories," Nicole explained. "Our ships are there to ensure that no other species attempts to fill the power vacuum left by the Kreth collapse." Delegate Talaresh from the Yasei Merchant Guild asked the question that everyone was thinking. "What exactly does humanity want from the Galactic Council?" Nicole's answer was,